One of the best parts about recording your services, whether you live stream them or you don't, is that you have essentially an endless supply of content that you can then post to your other social media accounts. For example, at my church, we create a short reel that we post to Instagram of a clip from the sermon every single week. Not only does this help grow our following because Instagram reels are driven by the algorithm to reach people who might be interested in it or live close by or whatever the case may be, but it also helps people from our own church who may have missed the sermon get a little sneak peek and go back and watch it. Or even people who were there be reminded of a piece from it and maybe go back and watch it or just have something to think on for the rest of their week. It doesn't take that much time to actually repurpose your sermons into these clips, and you can make kind of an endless number of them from any given sermon. We usually just do one per week, but we could easily do more than that. Now, some of you may be thinking that it's going to take a lot of work to actually repurpose these into a reel that you can post. And so that's what we're here to talk about today, is how you can actually take one of your recorded sermons and make a reel out of it very, very quickly, using the method that I use at my church to make a reel in probably less than 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Now, fair warning, I'm using DaVinci Resolve just because that's what I personally use to edit, but most of the things that I'm doing can be done in any editing software, whether that's Resolve or Premiere Pro or Final Cut or whatever it is you use. Okay, so let's jump on the computer and take a look at how I do this. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is actually create a project and make sure that it's in a vertical format, specifically 1080 by 1920. Instagram doesn't love when you upload 4K things, even if you've actually recorded them in 4K, so we're just gonna stick to HD. Then bring in the actual recording of your sermon. And so here we have our entire church service recorded, and I've pulled it in as a source. Now, during the sermon, I actually record a few different things that stand out to me on my phone, usually just some keywords or some points or phrases that I think could be a pretty good sermon reel. Now, this is where the cool part actually comes in. I could actually just create timestamps on my notes on my phone when I'm doing this so that I know where to go back and look for these particular clips that I'm interested in. But DaVinci Resolve actually has an AI feature called audio transcription, where instead of doing that, I can actually just transcribe the entire audio from the whole sermon and then search it for keywords that I'm interested in. Now, this is only available in the studio version, which is a one-time payment of $250. If you're using the free version, you're gonna have to scrub through manually. Premiere Pro has something super similar. I've never used it, but I think it works in basically the same way. So all you have to do here is right-click on this, go down to audio transcription and click transcribe. Now, honestly, this is one of the longest parts of this entire process, so I'm just gonna let it transcribe the entire service for me, but this is usually I walk away and I do something else and I come back and it's done. It only takes a couple of minutes. While we're waiting for that audio to transcribe, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Sign Presenter. Now, Sign Presenter is another piece of church tech that is great for those working on a budget. If you need to display information on TV screens anywhere on your church campus, Sign Presenter might be for you. All you need to use it is to sign up using the link down below in the description, and an Amazon Fire Stick on any of your TVs. Now, these are about 20 bucks a piece, so they're pretty affordable. Once you've signed up, you come into their web portal and you can create messages, which can be all sorts of things, whether images or videos or widgets or news feeds or calendars or whatever it is that you might want to show on your TV screens, you can create a message with that. Then you set up playlists, which are just a series of these messages, and then you can display them on your screens. This means that you can update them inside the web portal without ever having to touch a TV, and they will update automatically across all those screens. All of your screens can also be set up to run on a schedule, so that way maybe you're showing different content on a Sunday morning than you are on a Tuesday afternoon, for example. This can be super powerful and automate all of your workflows. Now, Sign Presenter is $10 a month per screen, which just means any number of Fire Sticks that are showing the same content at any given time. This means that you could buy, say, 4 Fire Sticks for 4 different locations in your church, and then it's only $10 a month, and they can all just show the same content all the time that you're updating automatically from a computer anywhere. 50% of all proceeds actually go to develop other church apps, such as Free Show, which I've mentioned on the channel before, and many others. It's a great company, it's a great product. Again, if you're interested, sign up using the link below, and I'll get a small kickback for pointing you to them. But anyway, now that our audio is probably finished transcribing, let's get back to our sermon reel and finish that up. One thing that you could do to speed this up a little bit is to actually cut out the worship portion because we don't really need that transcribed, and we got a lot of this upbeat music. But if we scroll down a bit, we can actually get to the actual sermon. Now, you could just scroll through this if you need to, if you didn't save any kind of key points, but I know a couple that I want to search for. So specifically, I know the phrase, set you free. I'll go ahead and search, and here it is. So I'll kind of check the words that are around this and build out exactly what I wanted to say. You can see why this would be easier with a transcription like this, because I don't have to scrub back and forth and actually listen to what he's saying. Instead, I can just read it here and decide this sounds like a good place to actually start the video, and this seems like a good place to end it. All right, so we're going to start up here, and then we will select down to right after that set you free, because I feel like that's a good ending point. And then I can just hit this button right here, and it will plop it down right in my timeline. So we can see it here, and that's the actual clip that I care about. Usually you have to pull it out just a smidge right at the end to get the beginning part, and maybe a little bit here as well at the beginning, just to bump it out. So then we can actually go here and we can watch it. Look at that. This is exactly what we want. Now let's make a few adjustments. Let's pull this audio up, just normalize it a little bit, just so that we have a little bit of a louder source to work with. The next thing that I like to do is actually find all of the different cuts, and then I'm going to cut my video at the same time. Because we use multiple cameras, it just makes it easier when we may have to reframe something. We don't have too many in this one, so should be pretty easy. Great, we're done. Now, there's a few different things we could do here. I like to just reframe things a little bit. I may zoom in a smidge, but when it's this wide, unfortunately, it just gets a little too blurry if you zoom in too much. But let's get this one. Now, you can either use this smart reframe or Premiere Pro has something similar, but honestly, I find that it doesn't work super well all the time, so I might just reframe it myself. Usually our password doesn't move that much, and our cameras do a pretty good job of tracking him, so we don't really need to worry about it too much. And you can see he stays pretty much right in the frame the whole time. And then this one, let's go ahead and scoot him over a little bit there. Great, looks awesome. So now, another thing to consider here is that Instagram Reels, in order to be discoverable on the Reels page as people are scrolling, have to be 90 seconds or less. So that's a minute and a half. You can see here our reel is a bit longer than that, 153. So we're gonna have to find some stuff to trim. I go two ways on this. One is I'll trim out the empty space, because honestly, that's just kind of how Instagram works these days. But two, I might actually trim some stuff right off the front and off the back, or if there's some parts that just feel like they don't add much to a reel. I don't want to change what my pastor is saying, but if it's kind of some fluff or he repeats himself or something like that, where it doesn't necessarily add to the content that's being presented, I feel like it's pretty safe to take it out. So let's go through here. We might actually have to listen to it at this point, and we can figure out what we need to keep. You know what, I think actually that makes a more powerful starting point. It kind of grabs your attention a little bit more. So I'm gonna pull this clip out completely. We're gonna back it up to start right there.
Some people like the minor on the majors.
And then I will actually trim out this long pause, pull out the next one. And then let's see, we've almost already gotten it down to under a minute and a half. I think if we trim out a little bit more white space and just kind of clean this up, I think we'll be there. Keep that one. Don't necessarily need that little joke there. We might clean up that cut. Might those laughs. Great, so after that editing, we brought it down to 124, which means it's going to be discoverable on Instagram. So we could actually just export this at this point and post it on Instagram, and we're done. But something else about Instagram is that a lot of people watch Reels with the sound off, or they like to read along with captions. So we would like to actually put some captions in our video to make this a little bit easier for people to consume. So again, DaVinci Resolve, and I think Premiere Pro, has a way of doing this automatically. So specifically in Resolve, we're going to go up here to Timeline, and then create subtitles from audio. I like to just show one particular word at a time, so I'll set this down to 1 character per line, line single, and 0 gaps between frames. That's all just personal preference, do whatever feels best to you. This will take a few seconds to actually generate, and then great, we can look at it. I always like to double check these subtitles. For a 90-second clip, it doesn't take all that long to actually correct any mistakes that I might have made. It's pretty good, but it's not perfect. And sometimes they're not incorrect, they just feel kind of weird. So we'll go ahead and change that. For some reason today, it really likes to put the first word of a sentence with the last word. Great. So the other thing that we can do here is, if we don't really love the style of the subtitles, which I don't, we can go ahead and change this a little bit. I always just use Gotham Medium. I like to set this more to about 35 pixels, usually pull it up to maybe 900 pixels up, a little bit more centered, maybe a little above centered. And then I put a little bit of a drop shadow on there, a little bit of a drop shadow, just personal preference. I could probably save some of these settings, but now sometimes this can look a little small, but if you think about how big it's going to be on your phone, this feels a little bit better. It's very readable. It's kind of pops out a little bit. Now, something you have to watch out for if you have two different camera angles, one that might be tight, one that might be farther away, is to just really make sure that it looks good no matter which situation it's in, and make sure that it's not covering up somebody's face in a weird way or getting blended behind something. So great. Now we have a reel, we've got subtitles, and we've got a nice little clip. At this point, you could be done. We always like to add a little bit of music. And for me, I have a subscription to Epidemic Sound where I can get some royalty-free things. Now, again, if you have the Adobe Suite, you can probably get some royalty-free music from there, or if you can just buy some things somewhere else. This is what we do. It's not what everyone has to do. Okay, so I grabbed a track. We're gonna pull this in and then drop down in there. Probably pull the audio way down on that and take a listen.
Some people like the minor on the majors. I like the major on the majors.
Probably pull it down a little more. Now, some people don't like to put music. They feel like it detracts from it or it makes it feel a little bit different. This is just our personal brand. If you don't like doing it this way, that's totally fine. You don't need to add music. So at this point, let's recap. We have a less than 90-second clip. We have a pastor teaching. We have subtitles on it. And we did all this. I mean, by my watch, this is about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm not keeping that close track on time, but pretty quick. So at this point, we're just gonna go ahead and export this bad boy. We're going to call it June 14th Sermon Reel and pop that bad boy on the desktop or wherever it is you want to actually save it. Use your favorite encoding settings here and make sure that you actually export your subtitles burned into the video and render that bad boy. So we get that whole sermon clip imported, edited, and exported in way less than 30 minutes for sure, and I think a lot closer to maybe 15 or so. Now, a lot of that is because I've created kind of a workflow and I know the things that we like to do, but that's what helps you with anything. Having a workflow is always super important so that you can do this task repeatably. Plus, if you want to make a sermon clip for every day of the week, okay, so 5 sermon clips, let's say, well, at 15 to 20 minutes a pop, okay, well, you're looking at like an hour and a half, which is really not crazy at all for having 5 totally distinct pieces of content that are going to be discoverable by anybody on Instagram or wherever social media you're posting it on. This is a great way that you can actually create more outreach with your church, draw people in, draw your own congregation in and tighter to Sunday morning sermons, and just grow the health of your church body. This really is pretty easy. I know that there's a lot of pieces to it, but it's just pretty basic video editing, and I think anybody can do it as long as you put in the time to practice and you create systems. As with most things, it can also help if you have like a little cheat sheet or a guide that you tape up next to your desk. For example, I have a little free cheat sheet you can download down in the description. That's all about the different camera settings that you need to use and set up on your cameras for your live stream. So if you're a cheat sheet type of person, go ahead and download that for free down in the description. And if you are a cheat sheet kind of person, go ahead and create your own to help you with these sermon reels. Write down the points that I went through today. And you can actually create so much content for your church's social media and just improve your church's outreach overall with the content that you're already making and capturing every single Sunday. I promise this is so worth it, and you'll see increased engagement across the board if you're doing this consistently. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to talk to everybody about the videos that I'm making, so you can drop them down in the comments below or reach out on Instagram or over email. I would love to chat with you and love to help you out if you have any questions. Until next time.